Happy Thanksgiving, Husky fans. What are you thankful for this season?
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into a special Thanksgiving edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hansen. We write for Inside the Huskies of Fan Nation Sports Illustrated. You can check out all our written work over there at si.com/college/Washington. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day. Like I said in the opener, we've got a very special episode for you today where it's Thanksgiving. And this has been a just truly fantastic season for the Huskies. So Lars and I we're going to spend the whole time just talking about some things that we're thankful for. Maybe it's, things we've seen this season. Maybe it's individual players, people, things. Could be really anything surrounding this Washington program. Probably going to mainly be football related, as most of our shows are at this point in time. Because again, like I said, this team has been just fantastic this season. So Lars, right off the bat, first thing that you're thankful for, what you got for us?
Can I go cheesy and just be thankful for Kalen DeBoer and nice to cover the program? Yeah. I was giving you the easy one. I we could both take this one, honestly, but yeah, I will just say I will say thankful for Kalen DeBoer because I remember when I went down to cover the Alamo Bowl after last season or at the end of last season, and I had gotten to know DeBoer pretty well at that point. Just, on the record, off the record, being around him, going to most of the road games last season, I was able to get kind of a better sense of who he was, right? And I remember as I'm walking out of the Alamo Bowl tunnel, kind of down the tunnel to go back out onto the field, after all the press conferences over and all that stuff, I looked at DeBoer, and DeBoer's kind of walking out of this corridor here, and I'm like, I shook his hand, I'm like, just the beginning, and he kind of had a smile, he's like, just the beginning. And it's kind of funny to think, like, because it was true, right? I mean, Washington's in the midst of an 18-game winning streak, second longest streak in college football behind Georgia, right? And Georgia and somebody else maybe, yep. But certainly Georgia. I'm safe bet Georgia. Anybody else want to throw your hat in the ring, go for it. But not only to do that, because it's easier said than done, right? And going 1-0 every week and all those coaching cliches, it's like, but I mean, really, it's just so refreshing, right? Because, I mean, I covered Chris Peterson's time at Washington. I know you covered a little bit of Jimmy Lake's time at Washington, but more so under DeBoer over the past couple of years. Right. But even Peterson, who was about as good of a guy, right? Great guy in college football, the Statue of Liberty, all of that. When a lot of people say, hey, like DeBoer is kind of like in that Chris Peterson mold, I'm like, I used to think that. I don't anymore because even DeBoer is doing some things that Peterson wouldn't do. Now he's still got. Now I'm going to see in the offseason if he's going to do some more things that Peterson didn't do early on in his tenure that kind of set him back, right? Washington won 10 games in a row for 3 consecutive years, but you honestly could make the argument they kind of underperformed, right? As certainly at certain times in those seasons, whereas DeBoer, no matter how good, bad, or ugly it's looked, they've always somehow answered the bell. And Oregon State was just the last example of it.
No, absolutely. I like that a lot because that was also my first one. And I feel like, especially with Kalen DeBoer, there are so many reasons to be thankful for him. And one of the biggest when it comes to just talking about this program in general is what he was able to do to help revive it in such a short period of time. And it's truly incredible. And he's brought so much this program. Lars, as you said, we both had many interactions with him, both on and off the record, and you just have that sense, that feeling that he's such a genuine person every single time that you talk to him. And we've gotten some comments just saying, oh, like you don't need to spend a lot of time talking about like the coaching differences and disparities there. It's no, with Kalen DeBoer, you kind of do, because not only can you see from what his on-field results have been that he's really good at his job, but everything that you kind of see him to be, maybe when you're watching him talk on camera or you see him on ESPN or any of those things, that's just who he is. And he has found a way to just instill that into every single one of his players and just say, this is how we're going to act. This is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do that. And he has been able to gain the respect of his players so quickly and just institute a winning, just that winning culture while also winning on the football field. And it's truly incredible to see everything that it is that he's done.
And the craziest thing is he's done it, as we said, with most of the intact roster that won 4 games in 2021. Right now, again, yes, you bring in Michael Penix, who he knew, but again, that wasn't like bringing Caleb Williams to USC, where he had at least played a full season under Lincoln Riley. Everybody knew he was the quintessential 5-star, once in a generation talent, right? Michael Penix didn't have that lure, didn't have the pedigree that Caleb Williams came to Lincoln Riley with at USC. So for everyone to say, oh yeah, can he win without Penix? Well, let's first talk about him winning with Penix, right? I mean, like, Penix has been able to stay healthy for 2 consecutive years and basically never get sacked. That's a testament to the roster that he inherited, right? Because most of those guys, I mean, DeBoer has not played. DeBoer has, well, yeah. DeBoer has not started an offensive lineman that he recruited. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
You are wrong. Or okay, started.
That was the catch, right? Because Landon Hatchett would be the one.
Yeah.
Because Parker Brailsford had already signed with the program in 21. So you could say, well, hey, DeBoer kept those guys, but it's like, okay, Scott Huff stayed.
Say Parker Brailsford because it still technically is a recruiting class under DeBoer. And they did have to do some work to make sure that he would stay in the boat. But because
I don't think they had to do that much work. If I'm being fair.
No, and I was going to say that was just more of they had to do that with every person in the class, and so it's right. Yeah, that's fair. And the next person that I know both you and I are thankful for is Michael Penix, because Michael Penix has done just such a tremendous amount of just as Lars shoots the arrow for our audio only listeners. I mean, come on. It's fantastic to see everything it is that he does. He's such a fantastic kid off the field, and just everything he does on the field has just been, I know I've seen it on Twitter, is some people are already saying, is he on your Mount Rushmore of Husky players at this point, like let alone Husky quarterbacks? And that's a very tough argument to make, but I can see the case for it. And even in just 2 years, he has been just, I wouldn't say like equally as big of a part of the turnaround, because Kalen DeBoer is the one who does all this, but none of this would have been possible without what Michael Penix has done for this team.
Right. And I think, but also Penix doesn't do that without the offensive line. Right. So exactly. I think it kind of, and it was cool to see Penix last week give his offensive linemen some Alaska Airlines vouchers. I swear somebody mentioned back in the summer that Alaska Airlines should do something with Michael Penix. I can't tell you who suggested that, but I know there's a couple of tweets out there that a certain person put out to the ether that said, hey, wouldn't be the worst idea, Michael Penix, Alaska Airlines, that partnership right there for you if you want it. Caleb Williams got dealt.
Does whoever that person is want their own deal or something like that? I'm just asking.
I'm just saying, having booked a couple of flights, one more recently for a future bet, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to get some, maybe meal vouchers or maybe some potential upgrades. I'm not asking for a Kirk Herbstreit's private jet here. I mean, although I would love to fly with Ben and Kirk, around the country. I think that would just be a fun experience in of itself. I mean, Ben Herbstreit, if you do that graphic, not only star of the show, but Ben Herbstreit, anybody else, right? That the example of like whatever the symbol is. I'm not great at math, as you guys
greater than. The
greater than symbol, but like greater than everybody else. Easy, hands down, not even a question. And Ben has been to Husky Stadium, so they have the magic touch.
True. We did see him walking around at midfield.
Exactly.
Lars, what else are you thankful for?
Oh man, what am I thankful for? I don't know. Well, how many of these are we going to do? Because I got a couple of cheesy ones that I can kind of throw out.
Oh, take all the cheesy ones you want. This is just, it's Thanksgiving, so everybody's happy, everybody's celebrating. Just whatever route you want to take, this is totally on just above board.
So I will parlay, right? I will parlay my thankfulness for UW football and Kalen DeBoer and all that in general with mentioning Ben Herbstreit and all that, because of the success that this program has had, and because of the success that DeBoer has had, especially this season. College Game Day came back, right? The Dan Le Batard show sent Lucy Rodin up to Seattle for the Husky game, and she also went to go see the Seahawks. And that was going to be my parlay. I'm thankful for certain people making their way up to Seattle just for for that. But even even without Lucy, right? Who, I went and looked at some comments that she would get and things like that. I'm like, oh, okay, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Lucy, when you get to know her and if you watch a lot of her stuff, she really does kind of have the ultimate fan. She has the Ben Herbstreit life of just like getting to experience all of these, new places and coming. And that's the thing, right? Because if you want to get rid of a perception of East Coast bias, you need to have people coming from the East Coast, and especially down where Le Batard is in Miami. I know Meadowlark has got a few other offices that they've built over the past couple of years, but they're still based mostly out of Miami. To get a TV show, radio show, podcast show, whatever you want to call them, to send somebody all the way up to the Northwest and give them good publicity and you win and all that does nothing but positive vibes when you start going into the Big Ten next season, because Lucy's Iowa grad. So, that trip to Iowa City next year, maybe we do a home and home sort of thing. Who knows? We'll see. Fingers crossed. But regardless of all of that, it has been cool to see College Game Day come back, right? And then you wait on game day, right? Kalen DeBoer is almost rewriting the entire curse book that UW has had, right? Where how many times had they lost to USC when game day came? They lost to Oregon in 2013 when game day came. All of these things, Kalen DeBoer is now saying they lost to Baylor in the Alamo Bowl. Beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl in your backyard. Literally, he is rewriting all of these scripts for Washington, whereas I don't necessarily know if they will get to or win a national championship this year. I still am going to ride on my season prediction and saying they're going to be national champions at 15-1, just for the sake of argument here. But what's next to rewrite? Well, win a Pac-12 championship. You don't really have to rewrite that one. Rewrite the Rose Bowl. You lost to Ohio State. If you get to play Michigan in a semifinal in the Rose Bowl,
or Ohio State,
exactly. That's another one that almost just seems ripe for DeBoer to rewrite that book. And then, if DeBoer gets to the national championship and loses to, well, I guess who would be the fourth team in on that one? Anyways, but the point, I guess I love Kirby Smart, and I just don't want a three-peat because I'm not ready for that level of. Yeah, I'm just not ready for that.
As a Patriots fan, I mean, living on the other side of that, I understand where you're coming from, but I've got one that there's a little bit of a personal story on this side too, because you talk about one of your conversations with Kalen DeBoer. I'm very thankful for wide receivers coach Jamarcus Shepard. I'll start with the personal stuff and then get into everything else. Jamarcus Shepard and I have developed a great relationship this season because of the shoes that I wear. For anybody who doesn't follow me on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, I love my nice shoes. I've got a big collection of Off-Whites, Nikes, Jordans, whatever else. And Jamarcus Shepard has seemed to really appreciate that this season. And so I just shout out to him for that. But outside of that, Jamarcus Shepard has proven why Kalen DeBoer went out and hired him. With the whole Junior Adams thing, when Junior Adams said he was going to stay on, then took the same job at Oregon. That was a weird start to the Kalen DeBoer tenure, to say the very least. And he went out there and just said, okay, I'm going to hire one of the best wide receiver coaches in the country. And not only am I thankful for the energy, the presence, and all just the great things that Jamarcus Shepard has brought to this program and shown why Kalen DeBoer wanted to hire him so badly, but Lars, you and I both like to cover recruiting. We really liked Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan coming out of high school. We thought they were going to be really talented players. And they go in and get Jalen Polk out of the transfer portal. And we saw all their talents just wasted in 2021. We know I know, and we talked about it on the show, we try to stay away from that because it's so sad and everything is so happy now. But it's something that needs to be discussed. Because we saw like more, and as much as you want to say some of the other talents were just kind of thrown by the wayside, there was nobody who had more potential and the less actual coaching than that position. And Jamarcus Shepard has turned all of these guys into high caliber, not just because they were probably going to be NFL draft picks anyways. He has turned them into high caliber NFL prospects. Rome Odunze is going to go in the top 15, maybe even the top 10 of this upcoming draft. Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan are going to get drafted pretty high. That alone is fantastic. And then we're going to see way more development from guys like Jeremy Bernard, Denzel Boston. Down the line, there's going to be a whole lot more when it comes to just some of these other guys that Jamarcus Shepard's going to be able to bring in, develop into this program, and just, hey, here's another high, because Washington was DBU for the longest time. I think that Jamarcus Shepard has a chance to turn Washington into wide receiver U. I truly do.
I can't refute anything except the one. I'm not really refuting it, but I do got a call for you. Brian Hartline is on line 1 if you want to.
I got all respect in the world for Brian Hartline and everything.
And so, like, right, but because you said it perfectly, right? Like, one of the best wide receiver coaches in the country. Well, he's one of 2. The other one is in Columbus, waiting for Ryan Day to take an NFL job, like that. Right. And I think that's the important thing to hit on with. I echo your relationship with Jamarcus. I don't have the swag that you have, but I do have the.
Hey, thank you. That's the first time anybody has said that to me.
But I do have, well, also coming from me, I'm not sure how much of a compliment it is, because look, I'm a basic North Face guy who took probably the worst photo I possibly could have with Lucy in the press box, but she made it better, and that's all that I have to say about that. But with that being said, I think the cool thing about, Jamarcus and kind of this whole staff is, like, they really haven't changed from fall camp until now in terms of, DeBoer would always be kind of, he would answer the injury questions, but you question the level of sincerity and accuracy. But, he would at least deliver it with a, fair approach, right? Like, we're not sure. He might play. I'll say this. There may be a 1 or 2 times where he has flat out outright lied, but for the most part, he's been like, hey, we probably won't have him back. We probably won't. Hey, he's looking good. But I remember asking Jamarcus about J-Mac, and he's like, yeah, he just started running today. And then he played in the game against Utah, but really didn't factor in that much, right? So it's kind of like, okay, like, yes, they're coming back. He's not necessarily there, but we got to get him some snaps and whatever. I'm still really curious on how they're navigating the NCAA rulebook with Dallas Jackson, but that's neither here nor there. But I do think it's kind of been cool to see, and that's not necessarily a knock on the old staffs. I'm going to say plural, not just Jimmy's staff, but even going back to Peterson's staff, because a lot of these guys, they're going to get multiple opportunities, right? Ryan Grubb is going to get multiple offensive coordinator job offers and potentially some low-level head coaching jobs. Jamarcus probably will get a number of offensive coordinator jobs, probably some NFL jobs if in terms of maybe a wide receivers coach more so than an offensive coordinator in the NFL. But still, to the point of a lot of these guys are going to have opportunities, and yet it would not surprise me if most of them stayed, right? Like, I think at this point, under Kalen, it's almost like, okay, if I'm leaving, if I'm Jamarcus Shepard, right? I'm leaving to take the Purdue head coaching job. I'm leaving to take, if I'm Ryan Grubb, I'm leaving to take the Iowa State head coaching job, right? Something in that vein where it's like, okay, it's not Montana State. It's not, insert number of FCS school or whatever you want to do. And not to pour water on people that take those opportunities, but I think, it's more about, okay, there's no reason for me to go out of this comfort zone that is so perfectly built, and I can continue to get better, right? Because I think that's the other thing with Kalen. We've seen last year they won 11 games. They're about to win 11 in the regular season this year. So now that the benchmark has moved up so high,
they already have.
Oh yeah, that's right.
11-0.
Right. Well, I meant they'll surpass 11 this past week in the regular season, right? You have a chance to surpass 11 in the regular season, right? No, you're correct, because the way I worded that is technically incorrect. But yes, but the point being, now you're going to be in position to win 12, 13, potentially 14 than you would. Oh, we got to 11, right? You had the opportunity to lose to Arizona State and you did it. You had the opportunity to lose to Stanford or USC, Oregon,
or Oregon State,
Oregon State, a number of teams, and you did it. Now again, some people will say, oh, well, maybe that means he's not that good. It's like, no, if they lose that game, he means he's not that good. If they win the game, it means he's that good. Like, or at least gives you the cadence to believe, hey, yeah, he certainly has the likelihood to be good. And I think the way that he's built this has been so perfect. From the day one, when he said, hey, look, I understand you guys kind of almost like are the orphans that your last couple of adopted parents haven't really treated you right. I understand. Just give me a chance, right? Just give me a chance to express who I am. And if it doesn't work and you want to transfer in March or after spring ball, go for it, right? Just give us the opportunity, right? Whereas the other coaches and previous staffs were like, hey, you know what? This is our way. It's my way. This is me. I'm doing it this way. And 18 to 22-year-olds don't react well to arrogance that isn't deserved.
Wonder who you're talking about there.
I'm just gonna leave it period right there.
Lars, what else are you thankful for?
That's a good question. Well, I'll take another opportunity to say thankful for Dan Rayleigh and
oh, absolutely. Everybody,
you and Locked On for giving us the opportunity to bring in, because I think we're a little bit of trendsetters here. We don't have a television deal, but we do have a
nice
simulcast deal that seems to certainly attract Husky fans, and Husky fans I know have been asking for a long time, hey, we would love more content. And it's like, okay, well, how much content, what type of content, what method? Some people like audio, some people like video. I think everybody's in a consensus 30 minutes is a good amount of time to cover enough bases. And if you do it multiple days during the week, it's hard for somebody, unless you're Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman, to have somebody listen to an entire 4-hour podcast, right? And the only way you're doing that is if you're having Elon Musk or somebody famous, sitting at the table. It's like, oh yeah, I'm down to listen to a 4-hour conversation with these two. It's like no insult to us, but I mean, I wouldn't want to listen to myself talk for more than 30 minutes. So I don't.
I'm surprised people have stuck with this long. No, I'm glad you went there, because I want to parlay mine, because Lars, I'm thankful for you and everything that people don't really know our backstory and how we became friends and everything. And that will stay off the table, because that was a very interesting experience that we will not go into at this time. But I'm really glad that we have known each other for like 4 years now, and it's crazy and it's awesome. And just learning everything I had from you over my time covering the team when I started doing it professionally in 2021, just through now and being able to host this podcast with you, it's all awesome. And I appreciate you for all of that. It means the world to me. And another thing that means the world to, I know both of us, is the everydayers out there. Everybody who tunes in to this show, if you've tuned in once, if you tuned in twice, if you tuned in to every single episode that we've done and seen how this show has grown over these for a couple months, that really does mean the world to both of us. And I know that. And it's really, really cool to see everybody in the comments, seeing everybody, because I know, Lars, I know people reach out to me just like through like DMs, and I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn to say, hey, I really love the content. Thank you so much for doing this. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see all that, and that everybody, just the amount of people that have shown their support to everything that it is that we do every single day. It's really awesome. And it means so much to us. And I know I'm going in a circle when I say those things, but I can't express it in any way other than that. Then we're just two guys who are trying our best to chase our dreams and do this. And you all are the ones who, by subscribing and by showing us that you like what it is that we do, that's what makes it all run. And that's what I know we're most grateful for.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing that I'm thankful for, to segue off of your point, is that because this is our first season, right? Like, this is DeBoer's second season. This is our first season doing this podcast. Just imagine,
and as our coworkers officially too at Inside the Huskies.
Right. We've been working for so long to try and get on the same page. Finally, we make it work. I open you the door, you don't close it behind me. That all worked out pretty well. But no, with that being said, just, imagine the leap that we'll make from 11-2 to 13-0.
Hope so.
Next year. Like, there's a lot that, that goes into it, and we'll try. We've already been brainstorming some things of what we'll do in the off season, trying to kind of mix it up, how we'll do spring ball and stuff like that, because there's also so many other ways that we can take this, right? It doesn't have to be just us talking. You brought on Tony Castricone. I mentioned, somebody who I would love to have on the podcast in the future, who is from Iowa City. Via Miami. Just, I have absolutely no shame in this. I have no problem with that. But we've got a long list of off-season guests, and we're gonna one day we might put it out there one day and just see how many of those names we can check off before the next season starts. Well, I know for a fact, depending on how the Heisman vote goes, I know we might get a former Heisman winner on the show. So, that I think you know who I'm talking about.
I do. Just a tease.
Yeah, but you know, and again, that's also what I'm thankful for is the opportunities that this job allows, right? The conversations, you know, that people have, right? That, you know, I mean, I'm not big on every social media account because, you know, one of them is private for a reason. But, you know, one of my posts was, you know, hey, just casual conversations with day ones and old faces and new faces, just make it all worth it. And it's really true because, you know, I can have a conversation with Walter Jones in the end zone, and I can have a conversation with Trent McDuffie that made you look like an idiot. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. and for context, I probably should clarify that a little bit.
Please clarify that.
Where I'm sure most people that watch this podcast likely follow me or one of us on Twitter, where I saw Justin Glenn, former UW safety, runs the Big Dub Club now for Washington, before the game against
Utah.
I was like, I knew it was one of those two. And Trent McDuffie, former Washington cornerback who now is dominating the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs, was back at Husky Stadium. And I, you know, covered his recruitment out of St. John Bosco, was one of the very few who knew he was going to Washington before most people did, that because that commitment surprised a few people. I mean, you know, slight plug, but it was true. And because of the relationship that I built up with Trent over the years, when he comes back, he's just able to pick up and have a casual conversation. And, you know, being good coworkers and being a good solid friend that I am, I'm like, hey, Roman, you wanted the photo as well. And you just happen to be shooting yourself in the foot a little bit there, but by wearing a Patriots hat and walking up to a Kansas City Chiefs player saying, hey, I didn't cover you at Washington, but I'm a big, you know, big supporter, big fan, all this stuff. Can I get a photo with you? And I'm going to out you here in a little bit. He's like, no, that's stupid. Are you not?
But see, the one thing that I didn't really get a chance to say is how much pain I felt when I got the first ESPN notification saying the Patriots are drafting Trent McDuffie at the 21st overall pick. And then seeing that pick had been traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. I had never gone from such a high to such a low in such a short period of time. That was just the epitome of pain. And I won't go down that road because that's a whole other can of worms that I know Husky fans don't want to hear about. But I do have one other one that I really want to make sure that we're thankful for. And that's as we kind of get back on the general track here, that's Courtney Morgan. Courtney Morgan has done a fantastic job with Washington's recruiting, development, transfer portal, and he has done so much work, especially on the defensive side of the ball in this class of 2024. He's done like just a really tremendous job there, establishing relationships down the line. And I think that we're gonna see we're probably gonna see some movement, especially in the 2025 class. We'll see how the recruitment of especially somebody like Jericho Johnson plays out here in this last month or so before early signing day plays out. But I think that he's done so much work behind the scenes that sometimes goes unnoticed. And it's just been tremendous to watch what he's been able to do with Washington's recruiting staff. And I think that they still have a long way to go in front of them.
Oh, no doubt. And I think that was also kind of one of the more crazy hires when Kalen DeBoer, rising name in the coaching profession, but certainly not a Lincoln Riley. No disrespect, right? But if we're calling a spade, right? Nobody put Lincoln Riley and Kalen DeBoer in the same sentence 2 years ago when they were both hired in the same one day apart, right? I have that story on Inside the Huskies. Actually, go check it out if you want to look it up. But the fact that he built such a relationship within 1 year at Fresno State with Courtney Morgan, and then Courtney Morgan goes back to his alma mater, not just Michigan, but his alma mater, the University of Michigan, to work under Jim Harbaugh, and then leave his alma mater to go all the way across to the West Coast to rejoin as Kalen DeBoer is basically his, what in the NFL would be general manager, executive vice president, you know, the guy that kind of builds the roster with the coach, right? You know, the coach is, we're all in tandem, right? But certainly Courtney is the guy laying a lot of the foundations, and especially, you know, some of the older future classes and things like that, where Courtney just knows so many people, has a bunch of different relationships across the country. And man, I mean, pay that man. What was the movie, The Rounders, right? Where pay that man his money.
See, I was just thinking of Jerry Maguire. That's
show me the money is a little bit easier. I'm a big Jerry Maguire fan. I interviewed the actual original Jerry Maguire, Lee Steinberg. That's a crazy story for another day. But
I was gonna say that's a whole different story.
It did that in my senior year of high school gift art class. Anyways,
What a flex. See, now I like as we wrap up here, just so we can go blow for blow there. I did interview Stephen A. Smith a couple of years ago, just so we're on the same page there. That also did happen. Lars, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the everydayers. We are thankful for you, and it does mean the world to us that you listen to us, especially on a day like today where we just ramble and have some fun stories for you that just we hope added a little more context to just kind of what we do and everything, and just the lengths that we want to make sure we go to make sure that you get a quality podcast every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We are there. We are everywhere. We're going to be coming at you every day, not with an episode like today, but we're going to have way more for you over the course of the season, especially with the Pac-12 championship game on the horizon, the Apple Cup. Tune in for our keys to the game on Friday, where we'll be talking all about the Apple Cup. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you on Friday.